So welcome, everybody. BJ, I just wondered if you were waiting for more people to arrive before you
Yes,
speak to the group. Yeah.
yes. I guess I should tell you guys, Lynn's referring to my sister died on Monday.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
and I had been there at her home, and her daughter and I have been her primary care giver for the recent weeks. And I guess I'd like to say something about it. For me, there's a kind of a stillness that maybe some people would say is like shock, but there's no shock to it. There's just a kind of a waiting for the next integrative kind of thing. She was very dear to me my whole life. And so at the same time, she's been sick a long time. So I don't have any sense of, loss, really. That's noteworthy. And the other thing, which is so beautiful, the last full day, everyone that was dear to her was there. There were about 15 people, I guess. And the last couple of days, we had, I don't know how to tell this without it seeming odd, but I'll just say what it is. When it came time to turn her to take care of bed sores, or to change her, or to put a new garment on her, change her diaper, or put a new garment on her, or wash her, we did that. And as the last day went by, people came in. My niece's son-in-law came in, and he began to put his hands under her, so he could pick her up. We couldn't pick her up, but he just came in and he was watching, and so then he just walked over and picked her up, so we could do the work better. And then and no one said anything. His wife came in, and this was my great niece. She came in and watched for a bit, and then she started rolling up the one of the pads that was supposed to go under. Apparently she had seen that somewhere, So she's rolling up the pad, and then it was kind of like surgery in a way, and a kind of a not awkward. No one was awkward. And there she was, really dissolving. She has been dissolving before our eyes. And it was just so full of love and, tenderness. My son arrived late, and so we got time to change her everything. And he just followed in, and he was standing in the door. And my first thought was he would, for modesty's sake, he would turn away, but he didn't. He just walked right in and stood by the bed, and he helped with the wipes on her back. He wiped her back with the wipes, and it was just, I have never participated in caring for a body that was dead for, say, a natural burial, which we have in our town. But that's what it kind of seemed like to me. just a really respectful and dignified way of participating in a goodbye, a goodbye. Yeah, just so beautiful. Yeah. And none of us spoke of it, and we probably won't speak of it to each other. But just a glimpse, kind of a glimpse of something eternal, but blood memory. Uh, the closest thing to me is an Ash Wednesday service. Masumian, you might know from your parents, in Christianity, at the beginning of the 40 days before Easter is what they call Ash Wednesday. And you put the ashes on your head. And I've done that as the clergy person many, many times. And I remember so well putting the ashes on the forehead of children and saying, remember your dust, and to dust you'll return. And how long it took me to be able to say that to children without, some hesitancy, because I didn't want them to feel like that's a gross thing. I wanted them to think, oh, okay. And it was very hard to do with children, but became easier and easier. So I wondered with my young relatives if they felt some of that. You know it's important, and you want to do it, but it's just sort of too much for the mind in a way. Yeah. I think that's all I want to say.
Something very delicate and connected, almost like the way a family would cook a meal, like somebody comes in and then just
Yeah.
cuts the carrots up, or
Mhm.
feeling of everybody working together. And
Yeah, connection, a connection in a process.
And it sounds like a difficult time was made lovely by everyone being together, being connected, and literally having hands-on in the process.
Yeah. And how amazing that it should happen. Yeah.
Well, this family reunion is very much, and your sister, very much on your mind. But is it unusual that your family gets together, like, or is it common?
We all live a plane ride apart. But my son and I are a plane ride apart from each other and from her. But all of her living relatives are right there. So my son and I, when I divorced his father, began to go to her house for all the holidays, because he loved to go when he was a little boy. And so when there were holidays that were awkward or difficult, that's what started me. So it's not uncommon, really, but certainly maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I don't want to belabor this, but she was determined not to die, and was quite unpleasant about it. She would say to people, don't talk to me about Joe. Joe is her son who died at age 30. So we all kind of thought she would go easy into the night, but she did not. And the last, she was, people were saying, it's okay, it's okay. And among her the final words were, don't say okay.
Mm.
So it was a mystery. It's going to be a mystery to all of us what that was about. And some people said she's waiting on someone to arrive. Well, no, we don't know. We don't know. But my grandson is 18 months old, and she had refused to meet him because she didn't want to get his germs, because she wasn't going to die.
Mm.
And so she really limited who she allowed to be there. And the day she told my son, bring him. And so she still looked good. And they made all these great movies of the little boy and her, and he's sitting on her lap, and he's taking her wallet apart. He's looking at all her stuff. And after they left, she said, let's call hospice.
Oh, wow.
So maybe it was him. Maybe it was continuity somehow.
Mm.
And I'm now the oldest.
Mm.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. That really means a lot to me to get to share that with you.
And thank you for sharing. It was so natural. What you said, and it seemed like it was a good goodbye to your sister.
BJ, I just wanted to say that the collective nonverbals, it's a story to me about collective nonverbals that I'll always remember. It's just so powerful how a group can do that. And I was, also thinking about us as a group. Thank you.
It sort of made death a part of life, and made it so that we could really talk about death in our group, which is
Yeah.
the subjects that's very hard to talk about.
Nancy, I have really appreciated your sharing the details of your illness as as time has passed, and we've seen each other in other settings. That really has been meaningful for me.
Thank you. Death is an insidious thing. You never quite know when it's going to raise its head and when it's just going to go to sleep.
Well, you've had quite an unusual dance with death, Nancy.
Yeah, I suppose I have. It's been just about almost 14 years now since my first cancer. Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that was lung cancer, which you'd think would be the more serious, but they took out the lobe of my lung and it's gone.
Mm.
Wow. And no more lung cancer anywhere, ever.
No, it's not the lung, it's the ovarian cancer that's kept returning.
Oh, oh. Nancy, if you don't mind answering, but don't feel that you must, but how are you able, or how are you able to be a companion, to be friendly to the parts of yourself that have been unwell.
Hmm. How have I been friendly to it?
As in focusing.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting frame for for it. I guess I've just accepted it as it is what it is how I have framed it. And of course, it's come at me in different ways all of the time. I don't know. I don't know that I've befriended this cancer thing. Um, but I've made the most of being able to live and enjoy whatever life I've got. And I missed last week, which I hated doing, but it was the fourth week of my, after my short shots. So I was physically as well as I'm going to be for the month. And I had a couple of friends who didn't mind skiing slowly with me. And I had a great ski trip that, of course, it didn't snow like it was supposed to, but we made the most of it.
Well, it's great.
Yeah. So just, making the most of living each day, and knowing that it will end like everything else. Everything changes, nothing stays the same. I sometimes hate that phrase, but it's true. Everything does change and nothing does stay exactly the same. So I guess I just try to prepare for it in different ways, with my kids and that kind of thing.
You mean talking about how do you prepare for it with them? That sounds hard.
Yeah, I've been writing a letter that I was doing some of that today, actually. Different. Of course, we've got our, there's just a lot of different things to prepare for it. When I thought I was doing badly, I think I already told you that, we got our burial plot and all that. But, so that's done. But, I've gone through my jewelry and figured out who I'm going to give each piece to and stuff like that. And I'm writing some letters to each of my kids. I'm working on that now.
You remind me of especially the sense of equanimity I've witnessed in you for a long time. There's a Walt Whitman, it's from Song of the Open Road. Walt Whitman, an American poet, Masumi, who he said, to die is different and far luckier than we had supposed. And sometimes when people are interpreting that writing, it has to do with having had the opportunity to be aware of things that you've become aware of and that you've done or are doing. In contradistinction to how if we just pretend like we're going to live forever, so many gifts don't get given. I'm thinking of those letters. Wow.
Can't imagine myself writing letters to people. It would be like, it feels very awesome to me, like what to say. And I'm very touched that you do that, Nancy. And a little in awe of it, like, wow.
I started out writing a letter regarding my past, just so that they'd have better understanding of who I am and who I was when they were children. But Shashi, I think many of you know Shashi, when during a mindfulness meeting group, commented, well, what she would love to have from her mother would be a letter telling her how much she loved her.
Mm.
So that's what I've just begun doing. That sounds like a lovely thing to do. She said, if somebody did that for me, I'd have hung it up on the wall, if her mother had. I don't think anything I write will be wellable, but um, but I'll try. I guess it's an advantage to kind of knowing ahead of time. Sort of, but not really.
My family, it was so taboo to express emotional things to each other. And I have a memory of an event when I was a young teenager. And I won't go into the details, but my father was very moved by my dedicating my life. That there was a ritual in the church of dedicating your life to God, and I had done that. I had come forward to the, BJ will understand what that means, come forward to the front of the church as a sign of dedicating your life. And my father, when he drove me home, he said with tears, he embraced me and he said something like, I'm so glad, or something. And I was so freaked out that he was so moved by it. I ran into the house and I shut myself in my room, and I felt like I would never come out. And it was so shocking for my father to cry and to embrace me. It just never would happen. And then it happened. And I think I should add that my coming forward in the church, this seems so typical of me, wasn't really that I was deeply dedicating my life to God, but this visiting preacher needed somebody to come forth, and so I did. And so I felt like, oh no, now I've committed myself to this. God only knows I'll have to go to Africa and be eaten by lions or something to make good on my promise. And I didn't realize it was such a thing.
Oh dear.
So somehow to write a letter of love when you're dying, when you know you'll die, has that same feel to me, like oh, it would be so hard to do.
Yeah. My mother was very, she didn't express emotions when I was younger either. She was very English, is how I always describe it. So it's taken a lot of years for me to get to a point where I can express feelings. Yeah, and speak a bit. Interesting. To be able to speak of what is very important, it seems to me. Whatever it is that is, living or dying.
I'm just thinking of being the recipient of one of your letters. I'd be very grateful to have such a letter. It would be very touching. So it's unusual for anybody. I haven't heard that of people doing that. You're not on the cusp of dying. You're living.
I am. But I've been on the cusp of dying very many times in the last 14 years. But you just don't know.
Kate, you look very sad. I don't want to be intrusive, but I just wondered what you were feeling.
I am afraid. I'm afraid of death, I guess, very much.
Very much.
I can feel something is trembling inside me. It's like it's shaking.
Uh-huh.
I'm only afraid of life.
Mm.
Well, it's kind of the unknown. I don't know exactly what will come next, and the unknown is always a bit frightening because you don't know. I mean, some people do feel that they know, and that's okay. That's probably calming and relieving. But
I remember being in therapy with Gene Genlin and telling him that I was very afraid of death, like Kate. And he said, well, what are you afraid of? And I thought that was the stupidest question in the world. You know, of course, what could be more frightening? And I said that to him, and he said, well, maybe everybody is afraid. I don't know, but everybody would be afraid in a different way. And I wanted to know your way. And that's sort of what I felt about you, Kate. I would want to know what it is for you that's so frightening. I mean, for some people, it might be the unknown. For some people, there are many things.
I have never been to any funerals. I'm afraid of people leaving me, people dying.
leaving you. Mm,
Leaving. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Being left.
Maybe I hope if I'm not in the funeral, then they are still alive. It's just
Mm.
they're still there.
Mm.
One of the saddest parts of dying for me is leaving the people I love. Yeah. To leave my husband is, yeah. Yeah. So the leaving and the parting is a difficult part of dying.
It's difficult for the people who are still alive, who are left there to face it or to deal with it, to try to understand it.
Mhm.
Mm.
People have been trying to understand it for the millennia. Yeah.
But it's not easy to understand. It's very
No.
difficult.
Extremely. Extremely difficult.
Kate, does the word grief resonate at all as a part of this kind of dread of the death, the the loss?
Yes, grief and fear, a lot of fear.
Hmm. A lot of fear.
and a lot of fear, and I wish I could change it. I wish I somehow I could change it. Yeah, I hope people don't die. Everyone live forever. Everyone lives forever. Don't
Yeah.
die.
Yes. Yes.
You're not alone with that.
It's just we have to accept it. But why do we have to accept it?
Why do we have to accept death?
Well, maybe we don't have to accept it. I mean, I think you're saying that, Kate, what, why do we have to accept it?
But there's nothing I can do about it. My hands are sweating.
That's what happens when we get nervous, for sure.
I really appreciate Lynn asking you, Kate, do you have to accept it? Must you accept it? And the image that came was unacceptable. And that was my sister until her last breath. This is unacceptable.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, and it was a part of the beauty of it, the mystery of it. There was a kind of in her, there was a kind of a, what's the word? Indignant.
Yes.
How dare you come here?
Mm.
How dare you? I never thought of it, but she was never helpless then.
Mm.
She never said, I'm helpless.
Mm.
How dare you? Yeah, thank you, Kate. Thank you for talking about that.
There's a poem that probably most of you know, but some of you may not know about. Don't go gently into that dark night, or something like that.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Rage against
The dying of the light.
the dying of the light. Yes. I think that expresses the part that just doesn't accept it. You don't have to accept everything you can't change. How are you doing, Rachel, this conversation?
I've been here, I've been off camera, but I feel very moved and very close to this topic. And listening to Nancy, how living with the imminence of death as you have been going through these illnesses, there have been times in my life where I've lived with that, knowing my parent, one and then the other was dying, and that death was presenting itself in my life, even though it wasn't my own mortality, but it was so close and it was true. And I didn't really believe in it, except as a sort of theoretical concept in a certain way. And so I'm doing very sad. And I feel like I'm entering into a place where the truth, the reality of death is came into view again very closely. When just Friday, I learned that my cousin, who I have not been in touch with, but he's my first cousin, and growing up, I'll see if I can find this image that's just a picture of a picture, I think from his bar mitzvah album. So he was 12. I guess boys are 12 when they're bar mitzvahed. And I was 3. And this picture has been our whole relationship of these years. And now I'm 51 and he's 60. But there's a picture and he's holding my hand, and it's so dear because a 12-year-old boy doesn't necessarily want to hold a 3-year-old little girl's hand. And he's just holding my hand and looking down at me so adoringly. And I'm looking up at him. He was my first crush. He was somebody who I've always adored. And of 3 people in my family, my grandma, my mom, and then my cousin Stevie, because when you're little, you're always ranking who you like best and love the most. At least I was in my family. And he's the last surviving person. And on Friday, I just found out he was in the hospital with leukemia. And it's something that I don't know about leukemia really. It's not, I know about the things that have presented themselves, but I'm sorry to talk for so long. It's just sort of confronted me. And I was saying to Lynn earlier, like down to my primary colors, sort of just like everything gets dialed up, like how we are going to die, and we are dying. And he's going to die of this or something. And it's just sort of amazing to me how we live and we don't think about dying. We think about getting the mail or getting the car washed or paying the mortgage or, putting on lipstick. And then here we are with death. And in a way, it would be very good to have that much more present, not to terrorize us, and not to make us feel indignant, but so that we're living, knowing, like, I guess, just purposefully or lovingly. So I feel sad, but I just feel more emotional.
Yeah. It does bring up the emotions.
Yeah. I think I went to the actor's studio when I was in my early 20s, and I think it was either Dennis Hopper. It was one of the great actors who they would come and visit, and we had that the actor's studio with James Lipton on Bravo. Like they were filming that at where I went to school. If anybody's ever heard of that. And one of the great actors, it was one of the method actors. It was either Dennis Hopper or Chris Walken or one of these who said he was speaking about acting and about like living and being present. And I don't even remember the question, but he said, we're all dying together. Like, and that was so profound. Like that sort of kept me company in a certain way. And I think, Jim, it was during your Help for Helpers on Monday where somebody, or maybe it was Lynn, quoted something that said, we're all just walking one another home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ram Dass says that.
Who says, oh, Ram Dass, yes. And I love that. And it was so like an echo of what probably one of these method actors had been with Ram Dass, at some kind of point. That we're all walking one another home, and that we're all alive in this same time for whatever reason, and we are dying, whether it's more rapidly, more slowly, more suddenly. That makes me feel less frightened that it's going to be some kind of nightmarish, terrifying, punishing kind of treachery, but more that it's just part of what's already happened. And that we're together in it.
I like that concept.
BJ, that was the feeling that you had when the family members were doing things, you know, at the end, like we're together, we're all doing this.
Marvin?
Hmm.
Yeah. Is there some way you could tell us that what's alive in you right now? Or would you be able to?
Well, I was thinking about this topic about death, and the idea of death doesn't frighten me in the way that others have said, but the process of dying um, uh, is the part that is frightening. And I'm amazed that you know, when you're telling about your sister, that she seemed to have accepted it in a way, or maybe she hadn't, but in the last moments, she was very accepting of everybody participating in her death, in her passing. I guess it's also um, whether you think of death as a final moment or you think of it as part of life, that there is going to be either some reincarnation or you're going to get to heaven. Um, um, Certainly not that you're going to be forced to enter hell. I don't think about it that way at all.
But you think of it, Marvin, as a part of life, that there are many deaths.
Yes, I do. I think of it as a part of life that and there are many deaths. I mean talking with a friend today about things that I'm no longer able to do physically. And it's not that there's um I think of them as a death, but in effect they are. I'm that part of the life that was so alive for me in the past, I'm not able to enjoy right now. So that's kind of a little death.
Thank you.
Yeah. How about others? It feels like this is a difficult topic. Nobody's ready to jump into talking about it.
I think we've done pretty good
Oh
so
yeah,
far.
We've
definitely.
all jumped into talking about it,
Sure.
actually.
Yeah.
Marvin, Marvin is a hard taskmaster here.
Well, it isn't something that we talk about easily.
Right.
Mhm.
Kate, how are you doing? Can I ask? I just wanted to check back in with you, Kate.
Me, Rachel.
Yes.
I want to run away.
What's that, Kate? I didn't get
He
that.
wants to run away.
To run away. Oh.
And I want to give you a big hug as you run.
Maybe we should all run away together.
Yes.
And then have a group hug. I still want to get a hug in.
I'm trying hard to sit here.
It takes courage to stay with something that is so fearful.
Yeah.
And you're here with us.
Does what Marvin said help, Kate, or does it make sense to you that death isn't some completely new experience? I mean, in a way it is, but that we have many deaths and many rebirths in our life. You know, we're not the same as we were when we were children. No cell of our body is the same. And yet there's a continuity. But many things have died and many things have been born. Does that?
How does all this land on you, Jim?
I've always been pro-death. If it didn't exist, someone should invent it.
Why is that, Jim? What?
Because living forever is too long. And even living for a long time is too long.
What makes it too long?
Well, I think a lot of it is wasted. A lot of it is spent, mostly dead anyway. Maybe you kind of wake up when you die.
Some people who have had near-death experiences have felt that way.
Have felt what way, Nancy? Can you say that, please?
Oh, there are people who have technically died and have had what they call a near-death experience. And for them, it's very beautiful what they talk about. So that's what I was referring to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I understood. I just wasn't sure how that they felt that it would be beautiful. Yeah, my mom actually had a near-death experience, and I think it gave her a sense that there was nothing to be afraid of. I mean,
That's what everybody says who's had one. Yeah.
she really carried it with her through my dad's death. I think to her own death too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There is a movement in California. I don't know whether it's in the East Coast, of having deaf cafes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Too.
I attended a couple of sessions and was really impressed that the older people were not so fearful of death, but the younger people who attended were. And I have a friend who goes regularly as a preparation. He's preparing himself for moving on, and he uses his regular weekly attendance at the death cafes, and they're in the Berkeley Public Library, so it's not in some rarefied environment where these take place.
So he's deconditioning himself to the fear of death, maybe.
I don't think it's to the fear. I think it's to the acceptance of it,
Okay.
and just the preparation mentally that he's not going to be taking his 5-mile walks a day and enjoying nature. He's going to be doing something else. I don't know what that is, but
I prefer a cat cafe personally.
we
For
have
sure.
that here too. We have those as well, that you go in and spend a few hours nestling up to a cat or a kitten.
We have that in my neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Jay, how is all of this for you? Just hearing all people's reactions and
Well, I find it good, nice. You kind of weaving together an awareness. Maybe even a we awareness. That each thing that one person says impacts a place where the next person finds themselves in some way.
yeah.
When I was 3 years old, it's one of my earliest memories. I was riding in the car with my father, and in the southern part of the United States, the tradition still holds, less now, but that when a funeral procession passes by, you stop. Everything stops. And so we did. We stopped. And I asked him why we were stopped, and he said there's a dead person being carried by. And I said, why do we stop? And he said, we stop to show respect, that we respect that event, that as an important event. So as I grew older, my mother was always asleep in the daytime, but my father made it a regular practice to get days off of work if he had to go to funerals. And they weren't total strangers, but he had lived in this town his whole life. So he knew a lot of people who died. And I asked him if I could go with him. And so when I was in about the 10th grade, he started checking me out of school to go with him to people's funerals. And I hardly ever knew the people at all. But I just found it so expansive, opened a kind of a curiosity about what's really important. And then we would go eat.
Wow.
Well, your comment evokes a memory for me when I was a kid. I lived next to a church, and I had a, a regularly terrifying image of all these black cars lining up in front of the church. And I didn't, of course, I didn't know what they were, what it was all about. But associated with that image is that I had the image that of a man dressed in black carrying a handbag who had only one arm. And was walking down the street, and I didn't know. I associated that with the whole procession, I, and it was terrifying for me when I saw that procession regularly. I guess until I learned about what it was all about. Yeah, I'm wondering, Masumi, you haven't said anything today. Would you offer something?
Yes, there are many things turning around in my head. One thing that came to me after what Kate said, that she would like to live, this is the, you like to do what you want to do, or what you need, feel you like to do. You need to do one day, one day is the important day. There's a saying in Japanese that comes from a tea ceremony master who said, when you encounter a person, just think it is once in a lifetime meeting,
Huh.
so that you need to cherish or value, or whatever the word, you need to really appreciate that encounter. And that is something that came in my mind, that you always need to have such a value or feeling, thinking that this encounter with you all is also once in a one lifetime meeting. So I'd like to cherish it to the utmost value. The other thing that came to me in my mind was I have visited one temple in my old city, Kyoto, and that temple was built by a priest for the emperor who was really, really afraid of dying. So this temple is built as a paradise, a beautiful place, and a pond in front of the nice building and a temple building. And also there's a story, the priest told the emperor the story that when you encounter or face the death, a goddess of mercy, followed by a bunch of musicians and chorus group welcoming you to a beautiful place like paradise. And that's where emperor is going to enter. So this emperor felt very relieved and died in rest. And when I heard that story, and also there was a painting of that scenery, that on the cloud, really imaginary cloud, there's a priest followed by the musicians and coming to welcome you, to take you to a beautiful place like paradise when you die. So since I saw that painting, I became so relieved that death is going to be a nice thing to happen for me. So since then, I'm not afraid of my own death. Of course, I have, my parents died earlier in my life. My mother at the age of 67, so I was only raising one or two children at the time. And just my body, after the loss, felt that I don't have a backbone at all. I mean, I sort of physically collapsed. It wasn't a sad feeling, but everything changed. I don't know why my tears are coming, but it was a really big loss. And when my father died, I was at the moment of my mother's death and my father's death too. I was the one who was near my father's bed. And also I have experienced with my grandmother's death. I was sleeping near her and I was counting the breathe. And, 1, 2, 3. And suddenly I did that every morning, every day. And one day he stopped breathing. And that was really a shocking time for me. Oh, that means death. So it was very real to me to meet one other thing I want to tell you, if I may, is the first encounter of somebody that I don't remember, but we do cremation. So we put the casket and we stand in front of the whatever the burning place. The door gets open and the casket will go inside, and we'll wait in a sort of a cafe-like place until we're summoned. And there comes a tray of white bones.
Oh,
And all of us will get together, and then they don't do this anymore, but two people would have two chopsticks and hold one piece of bone together and put it in a container. So when I saw the bones, the white bones, changed from the living body to bones, was really a big shock to me. Oh, so the death means death. And then people would after they put all the bones together into the container, it is going to be wrapped, and then somebody is going to hold it and bring it home and put it in the room. So those process of realistic dying process, and also after death, what happens, really, I have experienced personally. And I know what the process is like. Now, as I talk, I'm not afraid of death at all myself, but it is a hard process to take in, to take somebody else's death, especially when they are very close. And I'm not fearful of experiencing the process either. I don't know why, but I'm not afraid. It's not a fearful thing. It's just the way it is. As Lynn said, cell dies and cell reborn, and it's the process of circle. We don't die, we disappear, but they remain in our heart. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
thank you, Miss Simi.
Have you lost a loved one, Kate?
I miss my grandma.
Saying goodbye to someone you love is very difficult.
In the method of communication called nonviolent communication, some of us have experience with that. One of the things we do when we gather as a group for practice is to make what we call empathy guesses, where you ask, what is it this? Could it be this? And Kate, I want to have an empathy guess, and you can answer or no, but what comes in me is did you feel your grandmother's love for you when you were small and growing, and when you saw her, did you feel that she loved you? Mm-hmm.
No, I can feel your grandmother in you, Kate. A real felt sense of your grandmother in you.
She died 10 years ago. I'm still processing it. I guess I haven't accepted it. It's a very long time. I don't know if I can ever accept it.
Continue to accept her love. Her love will always be with you. That's what I actually wrote on the little stone that's gonna be at our feet. As, you know, to my family and friends, my love will always be with you. Your grandmother's love will always be with you. She loved you dearly.
But she's not here anymore. There's nowhere to find her.
In your heart.
I
You
can
can find her in your heart.
I can feel the protest that wants to be there. And you don't accept it. It's not okay for you that she's not here.
It's not okay, but I have to deal with it. She just left. Why?
Yes.
I know it. I know the question doesn't make any sense, but
For me, it makes the most sense. You know, why? Why did she leave? How old were you?
I was in my 20s. So I was old enough to understand things, but
But it still hurts.
I guess part of me is very angry.
Yes. And there's life in that anger.
It's like if I knew she'd die, how would I say it? I loved her very much. I didn't prepare. I didn't prepare for her leaving.
Mm.
It's stupid. I know.
Is this your mother's mother or father's mother? Mother's mother. You were closer to her than you were to your mother.
Yes. Yes.
Sounds like she may have been like your mother. In some ways to you. Not like she was a mother, but she was like a mother to you.
like a mother.
And I, I loved her and she left. I, I don't, I don't dare to love people anymore. I'm so afraid of people dying on me.
Mhm.
And sometimes I even wish I could die first, so I don't have to stay here.
It hurts so much to lose somebody you love. Somebody that accepts you and loves you.
I think that's why I'm so afraid of death.
Sure.
And today I'm here. I'm here with you, and you are talking about your process. And Nancy is writing some letters, and Marlon said he's not physically able to do the things he could. It hurts. I'm so scared. I want to run away.
Yeah. Yes, it hurts.
Because I feel close to you all. I'm so afraid.
I think you know that we all care about you deeply.
Like you're taking a big risk loving us after you were left.
I feel a lot of fear inside me. And there's this voice in my mind, like, run, run, run. My whole body is shaking. I
wish we could give you a big hug.
Feel the warmth of our caring as a big hug.
I picture us sitting around the campfire and Kate isn't running away. She's being with her grief with us, taking that risk. And then I picture us just surrounding Kate, the big group hug.
just don't leave.
I feel like running with you. Quietly, but just be with you and sensing how you must be feeling. I don't want to let you run alone. I'd like to go running with you.
I picture when you say that, Masumi, I picture us, we're sitting around the campfire and we give Kate a big hug and then she runs dashes off into the woods, and you go running after her, and then Jim goes running after, and each one of us gets up from the fire and starts running after Kate so she won't be running alone.
Wait for me. Masumi says, wait for me, wait for me.
I can't run that far anymore.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know if it could be that far in the dark woods.
When I was young, I ran marathons. Now I can only go a mile or two.
I didn't run. I'm still here.
Yes, yes.
That's right.
I'm imagining that little one that's so that says run, run. And that's who I'm seeing. I'm seeing us just bending over her and patting her face and just making nurture somehow for her. And I'm also imagining distracting her. You know how you distracted your daughter when she was 2 or 3 and she wanted to do something, and so you find something else to distract her. And I'm just seeing us finding some little object or something and saying, look at this, look at this. And that emotional, that regulation of her body just coming back. And then she's on the ground again. That's what I'm seeing my grandchildren do that. Yeah. And how easy they can sometimes can be comforted by that, just turning somewhere else, just briefly. So that's who I think I'm with, is that little one that says, run, run.
I wanted to say something, Kate, about you're saying about the not accepting that death is there, and you don't accept it. And and there's an idea that we're supposed to accept it. And I sort of love that I don't accept it. Like BJ's sister said, unacceptable, like, no. And I think the experience that I've come to, having a lot of death over the last 20 years, 25 years, is starting to accept silence. Starting to accept my non-acceptance of death. I have my mom's ashes. They were supposed to go back into the earth. I was supposed to, whatever you do with ashes, they're in my closet. I've tried to take a little bit of them, take them to place and and they're going nowhere. So, and both my dogs, they're just, that's as far as I can get. And my grandma's, I was also very close. We lived with my grandma, and I still dream about her. She's been gone 20 years, 20 years now. And my mom's been gone 8 years. My dad's been gone, I don't know, 12 or 15 years. Almost every night, they're in my dreams. And my dogs who have died, everybody's there. And I also have this sense of, I should be getting on with it. Don't I have something else to dream about or think about? I should accept it and so forth. But I'm just right now kind of good with, no, I'm not accepting it. I'm accepting it in this way. Nobody's ashes are going anywhere. Nobody's leaving my dreams. And that's, maybe there'll be acceptance in another 20 years of, oh, okay, but this is where, so it's almost like when Jean says, I don't know, Lynn, I defer to you or somebody who knows, but when Jean says like, can you be with the one that doesn't want to be, with the one that's upset? Like, can you be with the one that doesn't want to be there? So I feel like that's where I can be, and that's okay right now. So I sort of want to cheer with you and run with you.
Your ashes in the closet. My spouse, Cindy, was with the love of her life, a woman for 15 years. And the last 7 years, she was dying. Her spouse was dying. And so when we first met, it's irrelevant to me, really. I don't have any feelings about this person who was her person, except that we have her ashes in a lovely jar. And every time there's like a big storm, or in Florida, big things happen, one of us always gets the ashes and we put them in the dryer, the clothes dryer, because we figure the clothes dryer is as safe a place as there could be if there's a bunch of turmoil going on. And so one day our gardener, who I just love, he and I were working, and a very loud airplane, we are near an airport, a boom sound, and he said, "You think we should go in the house and put Leslie in the dryer?" So it's like she is with us. She is with us in that ritual of protecting and continuing to show care, and all of that mixed together. I'm guessing there'll be a way that you find like that for your grandmother. Something, it might be so silly and so strange, but it makes us feel so good that Leslie's in the dryer.
I am tempted to give you an information. Do you know Dora Lee Ginder Katona? Dora Lee?
Dora Lee.
Dora
Katona.
Lee, who
I
worked
focus-
with Jean.
I
Yeah,
focus.
she became a Buddhist priest,
Oh,
and now she's in Sacramento, probably in California. She gives Jizo festival in their area. That is one kind of a grief therapy, combining focusing and Buddhism.
Wow.
And yes, she was going to introduce it to me, but Jizo is one kind of priests, disciples of Buddha, who was able to communicate with people directly and also protected children.
Mm.
And we have Jizo statues all around the places. Like some Greek people have a small hut, like a small box-like thing with a statue of I don't know what it has, Mary or whoever in the corners of the streets near in the city or in the rural area. But we've got a lot of statues of Jizo, who supposedly protect us every moment, and then she uses that as there's a festival ceremony in Buddhism rituals that you have, because she uses this as a grief therapy, and then people get together and talk about the people they miss, lost, and then they make something or bring something as an offering to the Buddha, and talk about the person whom they miss, and I hear it's a very, very solemn and very soothing experience, and works well with a grief as a group grief therapy. So it's nice to talk about that person you lost, and also to write or to give offering and give that to the Buddha. So in that process, you feel that you get connected again with the person you lost. And I like really to experience directly how she does. But this is an information I just wanted to give, because she is a really experienced focuser, and she worked with Jean. She was the first one of the institute, focusing institute.
Don't know
Yes,
about her, but she was one of the, with
yes,
John Klagsburn.
yes. And then I have known her for many years now, and we've been contacting each other.
Mm.
And she just gave a talk to Japanese focusers the other day online. And if she had a time, she could talk about that grief therapy, but she didn't have time. She just gave us the talk, how she became a priest.
I'm wondering, Kasumi, if it's just information or if it's also maybe a suggestion that we have 15 minutes, and maybe we could each talk about someone that we've lost. I would love to hear more about your grandmother, Kate, because I have a real feeling for her.
Me too.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Lynn. Yes, it's a very nice occasion. Yes.
I don't know where to start. I don't know how to talk about her.
If we met her, and we are meeting her in a way, but what would we notice about her?
She is a very nice woman, and she's beautiful,
Beautiful.
and she smoke.
Say that again.
She smokes.
Oh,
She smokes. Oh.
yes, okay.
Uh-huh.
Kate, what food does she like?
She likes watermelon very much.
Oh.
She liked all kind of sweet food, sweet sugar, anything that's sweet.
Mm, mm. Does she live in the village where you grew up?
Not the same village.
But
Not
nearby?
the-
Did she give you sweets when you were a little girl?
Yes, she would hide hide the sweet and the cookies in her cupboard, and waited for me to go to her house and then give them to me. She was always very positive. I never heard I never heard her complaining anything. I think her life was pretty difficult, but she never complained.
Mm.
And she was always nice to people.
Mm.
She was nice to everyone, I think. And my grandfather died very early, and she raised her 7 children on her own.
7 children.
7.
Mm.
4 boys, 3 girls.
And she must have lived during very turbulent times in your country.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I think she's very strong.
Yes.
She has a strong and a gentle heart.
Yes, I get that feeling. Her strength.
Strong, like in courage.
Yes. Yes. I admire her very much. I wish I could be more like her, but I don't think I am. It feels nice. We can still talk about her.
What's her name?
秀英，秀英，
Shu In.
You in.
嗯，
You in.
于秀英，
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
She was a teacher. She taught,
Mm.
and she taught me how to write.
Oh,
Ah, wow. What made you enjoy most when you were with her? Eating sweets or
Mm.
I enjoyed talking with her. Always enjoyed talking with her. She was a great listener.
Mm.
Mm.
And I think my grandma understood me more than my parents did.
Mm.
what kind of word that she told you made you happy? What was something she said made you happy?
There's one time she said to me, "Don't listen to your parents."
That's a wonderful thing.
They did not understand you.
Yeah. She said, "Don't listen to your parents. I support whatever you do." Yeah. My grandma was the wonderful thing that in my childhood. My mother made my childhood miserable, but my grandmother was great.
Mm.
She understood you, and your mother just still can't.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to hear from you. And anyone who would like to share.
Yeah, we have like 7 more minutes. Who would like-
Mary, I would love to hear something from you before we go.
Sure. I was wondering if Kate looks like her grandmother.
Maybe part of me. I kind of look like my father, my face.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love getting to know your grandmother, and I love knowing that your mom she's doing a little better in terms of getting to know you. I'm so grateful to BJ and Nancy. What happens to me is I think of many things to say, but I know, like I know that death is so individual. I'm trying to get my phone to set up again. Sorry. Let's see. Yeah, I always feel that well, there were maybe maybe when I was growing up, there were like 1,000 family members. So now my family's really small. So the people that I was close to after I've grieved their death, I always feel like they become very alive to me again. So for me, that's the best thing about death, is that we can have ancestors. And the subject is so it's such a good subject for us to have here, and also just to to have as a part of my life. I as a little child, I didn't think I would live past the age of 16. So every new year is a great gift. I've become a little bit speechless about it, but I also I'm missing our group members who are not here tonight. It was such a special night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes. I'm missing them. Mary, why didn't you feel you could live past the age of 16?
Well, I was growing up. I was raised in the community of all my, my 5 great grandparents and my 4 grandparents, and my parents were like 18, 19 when when I was conceived, and things were very dramatic in my life.
Mm, a lot of chaos, and you thought that you wouldn't be able to survive it.
Yeah, a lot of I mean, you know, there were a lot of wonderful things. Um, but looking back, my dad, had there been, mental health care in rural Louisiana, my dad would probably be considered to be bipolar and to have sociopathic tendencies, and he was an alcoholic. And my mom was the country minister's daughter who always thought that things would be better, and they were not. Yeah.
It really feels so good to me to know a little bit more about your, where you come from, what made you you.
Thank you.
Well, does anybody have any last thing to say before we go tonight?
Thank you for sharing that, Mary. I really, really am grateful to hear and know that about what you've lived through and who you've grown into.
Thank you, Rach.
Been a very special evening, and I think it's hard for us to say goodbye, but we'll see each other in 2 weeks, and I have a poem that I'm going to send you.